president gets to choose the moment they enter history, but they get to choose the team they enter history with. And we chose the best damn team in the world. You are. No, it's because of you. I mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Because of you, we got so much done for all of Americans. I look down there, my Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, exceeded only by his wife, who worked in reverse. But look, I only hope to look back on these years, hope you look back on them, with the same pride I have of all you've done. You know, I'm proud of is that you did it upholding the core values of honesty, decency, and integrity. I mean, no scandal. I mean, it's incredible what you did. And you represent the best of who we are as Americans. That's not a joke. That's real. Now, while I relied on your ideas and resolve and counsel, we also relied on your families. To all your families, thank you for the sacrifices you made. I mean it. For being part of this journey. Every day, I'm deeply moved by all we all did for this country. I really mean it. History's going to mark down just what you did. You know, but the point I want to make today is to make clear my farewell address, as we all do have we have a lot more to do. We heard the inaugural address today. You know, we got a lot more to do. I know from many years of experience, they're up and downs, but we have to stay with it. My dad taught me the measure of a person, you heard me say this before, is how quickly they get back up when they get knocked down. That's what we have to do right now. And we've always done our best as Americans. We never give up. Never. We're leaving office, but we're not leaving the fight. You're smart, you're skilled, you're passionate. The country needs you again. So all of you can, stay engaged in all the ways you can. Whether it's in public service, or the private sector, or philanthropy, academia, running for office yourself, or anything else you choose to do. I give you my word, we believe in you. We, Jill and I, our family, believe in you. Just as I've said, how the laws we enacted, our seasons are going to grow and bloom for decades to come. I say that to you as well. I have no doubt you'll make this experience and take the friendships you made to continue to do amazing things in decades to come. That's why I see a future, all of it leading the way by you all. You know, so take some time to decompress, reconnect with your friends, spend more time with your family, but most of all, take care of yourselves and each other. I mean it. Let me close where I began, with my sincere gratitude. And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. I've been doing this for 50 years. You're the best group of people. Hard to say. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. And I tell you what, the greater honor is being able to serve with all of you. You're incredible. You really are. You really are. Mark my words. History's going to judge what you've done as one of the most significant contributions that's been made by all of America. Look, folks, you know, let me close with that poem you heard me quote before. Seamus Heaney wrote, "Once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice will rise up in hope and mystery rhyme. You made it rhyme louder than it's rhymed in a long time." I really mean it. We're on the cusp of real change, so let's make hope and history rhyme. I love you all. I'm keeping you too long, but thank you. Bottom of our heart, thank you. Can I go up this way?
President Biden, First Lady Jill Biden, the outgoing president and First Lady, moments ago leaving Joint Base Andrews. You can see the plane there waiting for them. The president, former president, saying, "Stay engaged," saying, "I've been doing this for 50 years." Did say something like, "We're on the cusp of real change. Don't give up." But that's quite something to deliver to a crowd when somebody else has just been sworn in and delivered the inaugural address. And President Trump has his own plans for real change. So again, sort of a split screen moment here in Washington, and it does reflect the country. Again, sweeping mandate in the Electoral College, but still a fairly close election. Just a couple million separated Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the popular vote. And what the former president, Joe Biden, was trying to do is keep people engaged, keep the supporters engaged. You can see them now talking to some members of his own cabinet, Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Antony Blinken right there in the crowd, having just embraced the outgoing former President Joe Biden there. And John Carl, he clearly did express a little bit of, his own reaction, if you will, to what he sat through with the inaugural address just about an hour ago from former, now incoming President Trump, the 47th president of the United States.
He said the fight's not over. We still have work to do. And he made a comment, especially after hearing that speech, we've got work to do. And then he crossed himself.
Yeah, sign of the cross, right? Yeah.
Sign of the cross, as if to say he needed a little moment of prayer after hearing the first of the two speeches that Donald Trump has given so far today. David, I can only imagine his reaction to the pardons that we just heard Catherine Falder's report, the pardons and commutations for virtually everybody who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Let's face it, those prosecutions, some 1,600 cases, are a big part, or were a big part, of Joe Biden's legacy, holding people to account for attacking the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. And that legacy is now up in smoke. And as we reported here, as we first came on the air with these inaugural activities, that decision to expand the pardons and commutations, and again, they haven't been issued yet, but Catherine Falders is reporting that they are about to be issued. They're expected to be issued. That was a change that was made since last night, and a change that I am told was made as a result of the pardons that Joe Biden issued this morning. That Donald Trump had originally planned to issue pardons for all the nonviolent offenders on January 6th. And in terms of those that had committed attacks on police officers and violence, that he was going to refer that to his Justice Department to review, as J.D. Vance had suggested about a week ago, on more of a case-by-case basis. But now you have the broadest, if he goes through with what, again, Catherine Falders has reported, the broadest possible action he could have taken regarding those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Virtually all of them to be, if he goes through with this, free by the end of the day.
As we watch Joe Biden and Jill Biden leave Washington after Joe Biden's 50 years of public service, Terry Moran, if Catherine Falder's reporting holds, this would be extraordinarily sweeping in nature.
Sweeping and telling about this national moment. Think of it, those two men in the Capitol today, side by side, performing the constitutionally mandated and this time peaceful transfer of power, and is still fighting over the meaning of January 6th with their pardons. President Biden preemptively pardoning the members of the committee and some of the witnesses before the committee that investigated the attack on the Capitol. President Trump now pardoning, it looks like, pretty much everyone who attacked the Capitol. One of the things that was at issue in this election is, what does January 6th mean to the United States, not just now, but in the future? That question has not been resolved. To many in the country, most Republicans on the day, it was horrifying and disgusting and a crime against our democracy. They changed their tune. A lot of Americans still feel that way. Other Americans see it as a lot of hyped up partisan politics. How we resolve that dispute will tell us a lot about who we're going to be.
Yeah, that's true, Terry, and something we heard in traveling the country, and Martha, I know you talked about this too in covering this election, is that people would acknowledge it. They didn't like what they saw, but it wasn't their #1 issue. It wasn't even near the top of the list. So whether wiping it right off the map is the answer to some of those voters or not, we'll just have to wait and see what the American people say and how they react to the news. This is the president's room, as is custom. The incoming president signing a series of binders. Let's listen.
It was a great event. We went to the helicopter. It was freezing. The sun is a little deceptive.
Yes, it is.
So what would you like us to do?
Sign your orders here.
Official documents.
Okay, I assume they're going to be happy with these documents?
Yeah, they're strong tribe. We might not be here.
It's the next step.
It's a tradition.
Sir, the first is 22 cabinet and cabinet level appointments for your signature.
Okay.
The next one will be, excuse me, the next one will be 47 sub-cabinet level appointments, sir.
But you don't have to sign 47 times.
Thank you, sir. You now have 31 acting designations and appointments to effectively take control of the government.
Let's do that.
That's important.
That's important, isn't it?
We have 15 commission chairman and acting chairman appointments.
Send it.
Commission chairman and acting chairman.
He was #1 at Harvard also. You know that?
Good counsel.
They have something in common.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, we have a proclamation ordering that on all future inauguration days, including this inauguration day, that flags shall be flown at full mast.
Very important.
That was a beautiful place to have an inauguration tonight. The sound was so good. The temperature was 72 degrees, but the sound was so good. So, maybe something to think about. I don't know.
Thank you, sir.
Okay?
Good acoustics. Yes.
All right. Now we,
That's
thank you. We go to lunch.
Great. Very
Nice
good.
to meet you. Thank you very much. There you go. Take that. All right. See you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
President, did you have a good meeting with former President Biden?
Very nice. Very nice. It's a beautiful custom.
Mr. President,
It goes back as long as helicopters. Before that, it was a stagecoach. But it was, I thought it was beautiful. Thank you. Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Check.
Mr. President, do you have any reaction to the pardons President Biden did at the last minute?
Well, I'm not going to discuss it now. I think it was unfortunate that he did that. We won't discuss it now. There's plenty of time to discuss it.
Thank you very much, guys.
Should we go to lunch? Do that. Okay. Okay.
Head to lunch.
Ready for lunch? Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay.
That was 3 times the number of appointments you did in 2017, sir, on day 1. Plenty of time. Just getting started.
The president in the president's room there signing a number of pieces of paperwork that you essentially have to once you become president, and putting into motion officially your selections for your cabinet. We heard the president ask there if he was okay with that. Mary Bruce, our chief White House correspondent, will now cover the Trump administration, listening in on that. He basically looked at those around him and said, are these papers okay, before he signed them.
And then he did go ahead and sign them, of course. As you noted, it's really the official paperwork to let him take effect of the government and those cabinet appointments, making those official as well. He was, though, asked by the small pool of reporters there how his meeting was with the president this morning. He said it was the former president this morning. President Trump saying his time with Joe Biden was very nice, saying it was a beautiful custom for the two of them to travel together. Of course, that time together came before, of course, his remarks there in the Capitol Rotunda, where he made clear the failures that he felt were a result of his predecessor's administration. And then he was asked, to comment on the pardons that Biden made this morning. And he said he didn't want to go into detail, but he did call it unfortunate. But Trump did say in that sort of second inaugural address that he gave at the Capitol to his supporters who were gathered that he clearly was not pleased with the pardons that Joe Biden issued this morning. He said that he was pardoning people who are very, very guilty of very bad crimes. Of course, that's simply not true yet. They haven't been charged with any crime. As Biden said this morning, there was no signs of wrongdoing by Fauci or Milley or Liz Cheney or the others on the committee or those witnesses who he preemptively pardoned. But as John Carl was reporting, it certainly seems that may have played a role in Donald Trump's decision. It certainly seems in his decision to go ahead and issue more sweeping pardons and commutations for the January 6th convicted criminals. And of course, we should mention also that wasn't the only pardons Biden issued today. He also issued some pardons for members of his family preemptively for his siblings and his in-laws. But again, as Terry was saying earlier, just a remarkable sort of tit for tat, even up to the very last minute as we see this transfer of power over just what the meaning of January 6th is. And former President Joe Biden also made it clear in pardoning his family members in the 11th hour, the 11th minute. Really? I could almost say, not because of wrongdoing is what he said. He just feared that that there would be retribution in the months to come. Correct. He said that these were to prevent, as he put it, baseless and politically motivated attacks. And again, saying that just because he was issuing these preemptive pardons, it was not an acknowledgement of any wrongdoing, but yet another sign that even as we are going through the motions today, even as Biden was participating in this transfer of power and inviting Trump to the White House, that Biden simply did not trust Donald Trump to use his power appropriately. Mary, thank you. You're looking live at the luncheon on Capitol Hill. This is when leaders from both parties gather to welcome the incoming president. There will be gifts exchanged here at the luncheon, and President Trump will make comments here as well. It's customary that the president would arrive, you would see a couple of moments, and then they would shut down the cameras just for a brief period so that they can actually eat lunch. Presumably without all of us peering in while they're eating their food. He's expected to arrive here at any moment. And then later this afternoon, Rachel Scott is at the Capital One Arena. And Rachel, it's my understanding that will replace the inaugural parade that Americans are so sort of accustomed to seeing, that sort of march back down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Exactly, David. A very different inaugural parade will be happening this year for the first time in decades, because this will take the place of that traditional inaugural parade that we normally see down Pennsylvania Avenue. Instead, President Donald Trump will come here. This is an arena that is filled with thousands of his supporters. I had a chance to talk to him over the weekend. I asked him about the weather, really throwing a wrench in his inauguration plans. And he said he was actually looking forward to being here with his supporters. This has the feel of a campaign rally on the jumbotrons here. They have been playing every single thing that we have been watching unfold. People have been standing, chanting USA, USA. They also booed here when former President Biden departed on that helicopter with the former First Lady of the United States as well. This is a crowd that's very, very fired up. And notably here, David, also, we do notice that something very different is happening than the campaign rallies. You also have a desk that is here on the stage, presumably for the president to sign some of these executive orders, this executive action that he has been talking about. I can just give you a picture. You can see it right here. He laid out a long list of executive action that he wants to take. He told me that he obviously also wants to focus a lot on immigration too. And that seal that you see on there, the presidential seal, well, that was put on within just seconds of President Donald Trump taking the oath of office, David.
It doesn't take long to put the seal on. It does come with a significant amount of weight attached to it. And he will be signing those executive orders. Among them, perhaps an order involving the border, which we have learned he plans to do. He actually talked about that in his inaugural address, also talked about it in the visit to Emancipation Hall, where some of his supporters were gathered there afterward. Now on his way to the luncheon. I don't know if we still have the luncheon images being fed to us, but I do want to mention, maybe because I'm getting hungry sitting in here in the studio, but this is the menu. Ready for this? Okay, Chesapeake crab cake with tomato tartar, right? Chardonnay from a Virginia vineyard. Second course, Omaha Angus ribeye steak. Carrots, broccoli rabe, just so you know, potato gratin, Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley, and then Minnesota apple icebox terrine with sour cream ice cream, salted caramel, and some Sonoma County Russian River wine for dessert. So anyway, I'm glad that they're celebrating the fruits of the labor across the country, and I'm glad that they're eating too. I think that we talked earlier about they had to go 2 hours with water, and I was like, oh, that sounds like the rest of us. I think they'll be just fine with that. But the luncheon comes our way next. I did want to bring, is Dan Abrams with us? Dan, I want to check in with you based on Catherine Falder's reporting, because obviously if what Catherine is reporting holds, and we have mentioned a number of times, the caveat here is everything does appear to be fluid, but Catherine is reporting there is a very good chance this will be far more sweeping in nature. But Dan, you're always so good at just helping us understand the difference between an actual pardon and a commutation, and they're two very different things here.
Very different. A pardon basically means you're erasing any conviction. In the case of a preemptive pardon, you're ensuring that the person doesn't get prosecuted at all. Commuting a sentence, the conviction stands, and all you're doing is granting clemency with regard to the sentence. So the person still remains a convicted felon, in the case of a felony, and you are just simply saying the sentence, the remaining sentence would go away. And that's interesting because it applies to both Trump and Biden here, right? Because when you heard President Trump speaking, he made reference to President Biden issuing, quote, pardons for all these convicted killers. Actually, what President Biden did was issue clemency, commuting the sentence, the death sentence only, of these convicted killers, and instead making it life in prison. So even when you commute a sentence, it doesn't have to be the entirety of the sentence. You can also say, I'm going to cut it short, as President Biden eliminating the death penalty, keeping life in prison on the table for all of those folks. It's an important distinction when we hear what's going to happen next.
Dan Abrams, our thanks to you. We're looking at live pictures here from the luncheon. You can see Pete Hegseth, the nominee for the Pentagon, who had a bruising confirmation hearing some tough questioning, but did very well as far as Republicans are concerned.
The Speaker of the House, the Honorable Mike Johnson, accompanied by Mrs. Johnson. Senate Democratic Leader, the Honorable Charles Schumer, accompanied by Mrs. Weinschall Schumer. House Majority Leader, the Honorable Steve Scalise, accompanied by Mrs. Scalise. And House Democratic Leader, the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries.
Leaders of Congress now entering the room for the luncheon here. President Trump expected to arrive at any time. Our Washington Bureau Chief, Rick Klein, with us, political director as well. Applause for leaders on both sides of the aisle. And as President Trump enters this room,
for the honors and the invocation.
As President Trump enters this room, he enters a fairly new Washington than what he entered in 2017, Rick. Many of these Republicans have been elected
escorting
in
the
the Trump
Vice
era.
President of the United States.
Entirely different Washington. The makeup of the House Republican Conference, the makeup of that room is a snapshot on things have changed. Tech titans like Jeff Bezos, Bobby Kennedy Jr., former Democrats like he and Tulsi Gabbard, Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham, former rivals, all of them are part of this room, and they're part of a Trump-supporting establishment, a tech establishment and a Washington establishment. This is striking, David. 2/3 of House Republicans right now were elected either in 2016 or later. That means that they were elected with Donald Trump or with Trump in office. They owe so much of their political careers to the man who's now president.
Let's just listen into this moment. Thank you, Rick. Great point, and we're going to come back to that in a moment here. The Vice President, J.D. Vance from Ohio, 40 years old, he's 39 on the campaign trail. Quite a rise in the party for J.D. Vance, Martha.
An incredible rise. You know, David, I was thinking this morning as we're all sitting on this set that J.D. Vance sat right here on this set in 2016 to talk about his book, Hillbilly Elegy. And from there, of course, went into politics. The time he wrote Hillbilly Elegy, he had some things to say about Donald Trump that Donald Trump didn't like too much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, the Honorable Donald John Trump, and Mrs. Trump.
I have a feeling people are very hungry, so I'm going to get this started. Mr. President and Madam First Lady, Mr. Vice President and Madam Second Lady, my colleague Senator Fisher, distinguished guests including the Speaker, Leader Jeffries, and Senate Leaders Thune and Schumer, on behalf of the United States Congress, welcome to the 60th inaugural lunch. Big surprise, we are featuring Nebraska beef and Minnesota apples for dessert. We are here in Statuary Hall, where these luncheons have taken place since President Reagan's first inauguration in 1981, and where the House of Representatives once met over 150 years ago. That would be before you were born, Mr. Speaker. In 1864, after the new House wing of the Capitol was built, and in the midst of the Civil War, Congress dedicated this chamber to host statues chosen by every state. Walking into the hall, we all passed under the arch, holding the marble Car of History clock. The statue shows Cleo, the Greek muse of history, holding a book to record events as they happen. And as you can see, she's heard a lot of stuff. And as she rides her chariot forward into the future, she looks behind her to remember the past. She remains here as she has for hundreds of years, a reminder that history will remember the events of the present, and it is on us to write that history right now. Speaking of art, the painting right here before you, I chose this painting for this lunch this summer, and it's titled American Horizon. It's by Jane Wilson, who grew up on her family farm in Seymour, Iowa. Coming from the middle of our country, Senator Fisher and I both like the painting because the artist is from America's heartland, but the horizon could easily be Florida, Mr. President. I will also note that this is the first time in history we are featuring the work of a woman artist at this lunch, and we thank the Art Institute of Chicago for their assistance. Looking at the vast open landscape of this painting, we're drawn to the bottom of the frame where the land or the water, depending on where you're from, meets the sky, and the horizon endures. The enduring horizon is especially meaningful for us today as we mark our enduring democracy as we approach its 250th anniversary. It's a reminder that what's over the horizon is our next chapter. And it is my prayer that the people in this room can write that chapter together. I'd now like to ask U.S. Senate Chaplain Dr. Barry Black, and we thank God he is back with us and in good health, to deliver the invocation, after which lunch will be served. Thank you.
Let us pray. King of kings and Lord of lords, whose kingdom is above all earthly kingdoms, and who judges all lesser sovereignties, look with favor upon President Donald John Trump and Vice President James David Vance. Empower them with the wisdom and courage needed for our times. Protect them from the vicissitudes and challenges that obstruct the making of a world of justice, peace, and righteousness. Lord, give them a deep desire to do their best for our country and world, and a determination to act in ways pleasing to you. Preserve their families in health and strength by your grace and power. Bless now this luncheon as each of us finds your grace sufficient for every need. We pray in your sovereign name. Amen.
There you have it. They're going to take a break for lunch there. You heard Senator Amy Klobuchar talking about that painting. American Horizon is what it's called. She said this is the first time in inaugural history that they have celebrated an American artist. Her name is Jane Wilson, an American woman who was an artist born in Iowa, noted for her exploration of the horizon. And you heard Amy Klobuchar talk about how it could also not only make her think of being in the middle of the heartland, which is what she and her fellow senator thought when they saw the painting, but that also, if you look at it and you see sort of Florida in it as well, Mr. President, that was sort of a gift, a nod to him. We're going to take a quick break here. On the backside of this, we're going to look at some of these moments, the interactions between the Trumps and the Bidens. We know that Joe Biden and Jill Biden have now departed Washington. You saw that here. At the back end of this luncheon, you're going to see the gifts exchanged for President Trump, some of the things that have played out on this day. But as we go to break, we thought as we've traveled the country here as reporters leading up to this election day itself, we've listened to voters at every step of the way. And we thought it was important, given how divided the country is, that we hear from voters not only who supported Trump, but voters who were hoping this would have gone a different way, but who share some of the similar hopes as we move forward on this Inauguration Day. So let's listen to them as we go to break, and the entire team will regroup here on the backside. We'll see you in a moment.
I feel good about the next 4 years simply because we actually have somebody that's going to be leading our country in the right direction and moving forward with with a great plan.
I want to see prices come down for everybody. I want to see the borders get more secure. I want to see our police be respected.
These next 4 years, I hope for prosperity in our community. I hope for healthcare changes. I just hope for a better day, man.
More inauguration coverage live from Washington after this on ABC.
Savory, juicy, and hold up. It's got Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning? Nice. Crispy, zesty, ranchy perfection. Hidden Valley Ranch, only serious about flavor.
Hey, I think I have a fever.
I don't feel so good either.
This is not just 1 hour delivery. This is not just medicine. This is fast relief for those who can't take a time out. Walgreens.
We ready? I need to get me a new phone. You need to trade in that old busted up phone. You can get you a brand new iPhone 16 Pro from T-Mobile. It's on them. At T-Mobile, it's better over here. Families save 20% every month. What a deal.
To all you new and existing customers, trade in your busted old phone, and T-Mobile will give you a brand new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. Plus, families can switch and save 20% versus the other big guys' best plans plus streaming.
T-Mobile is one of none. Go get that. What he said.
Yes.
Good luck.
Oh, Sean is here. Let's set everything up for remote learning.
Perfect. I plan on spending the rest of the day remote cleaning.
America's #1 news, ABC News, now streaming 24/7 on Disney+.
Strong women and hot topics. This is The View. And tomorrow, he's always got a view to share. So watch out for Roy Wood Jr. on America's #1 daytime talk show, ABC's The View.
Y'all see this? Patrick Mahomes is saying goodbye. People was tripping.
Where are you going?
He was actually saying goodbye to his old phone.
I'm switching to the amazing new iPhone 16 for T-Mobile.
It's the first iPhone built for Apple Intelligence. That's like peanut butter on jelly on gold.
At T-Mobile, get iPhone 16 on us. Plus, families can switch and save 20% on plans plus streaming versus the other big guys.
What a deal. Y'all giving it away too fast. T-Mobile, slow down. Da-da-da-da-da.
My moderate to severe Crohn's disease
and my ulcerative colitis symptoms kept me
out of the picture. Now there's Skyrizi.
I've got places to go and I'm feeling free. Control of my symptoms means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
And now I'm back in the picture.
Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi. Skyrizi is proven to help deliver remission
and help visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year.
Don't use if allergic. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or UC.
Ready to get back in the picture? Ask your gastroenterologist how to take control of your Crohn's or UC with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
AbbVie could help you save.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission.
ABC News live coverage of the second inauguration of Donald J. Trump returns in a moment.
Hey, I think I have a fever.
I don't feel so good either.
This is not just 1 hour delivery. This is not just medicine. This is fast relief for those who can't take a time out. Walgreens.
Y'all see this? Patrick Mahomes is saying goodbye. People was tripping.
Where are you going?
He was actually saying goodbye to his old phone.
I'm switching to the amazing new iPhone 16 for T-Mobile.
It's the first iPhone built for Apple Intelligence. That's like peanut butter on jelly on gold.
At T-Mobile, get iPhone 16 on us. Plus, families can switch and save 20% on plans plus streaming versus the other big guys.
What a deal. Y'all giving it away too fast. T-Mobile, slow down. Da-da-da-da-da.
All right, so that's one pair of glasses. Yep. With prescription lenses, plus anti-reflective lens coating.
Oh.
Scratch-resistant coating.
Did I choose?
UV protection. Award-winning customer service.
That's me.
That's also me. Free returns, free exchanges, and free frame adjustments for life.
And how much more is that?
Oh, it's all included at Warby Parker.
So my glasses
Are still just $95.
Oh.
Surprise! I just get excited.
Shifting Gears is the much-anticipated can't-miss series with humor and heart.
You could go back to law school. That's always been your dream.
That was your dream for me.
You like to argue.
You do love to argue.
You might as well get paid for it.
Shifting Gears, new Wednesday on ABC.
America's #1 news, ABC News, now streaming 24/7 on Disney+.
Ever since I tried Hidden Valley Ranch, I finally found what I've been looking for.
Oh my gosh.
I know. How is this stuff so good? Hidden Valley Ranch.
Only serious about flavor.
Y'all see this? Patrick Mahomes is saying goodbye. People was tripping.
Where are you going?
He was actually saying goodbye to his old phone.
I'm switching to the amazing new iPhone 16 for T-Mobile.
It's the first iPhone built for Apple Intelligence. That's like peanut butter on jelly on gold.
At T-Mobile, get iPhone 16 on us. Plus, families can switch and save 20% on plans plus streaming versus the other big guys.
What a deal. Y'all giving it away too fast. T-Mobile, slow down. Da-da-da-da-da.
If we weren't proud of the craftsmanship and level of detail that go into every pair of Warby Parker glasses, well, we probably wouldn't show you how they're made, including this part, which is our favorite. Wow. And this is also great. Each pair comes standard with lenses that are scratch-resistant, anti-reflective, and UV protective. Try 5 pairs for free at warbyparker.com.
We have 96 hours to build a house for a deserving family.
Come on, guys, it's moving day. Let's go. It can't be real.
Extreme Makeover Home Edition, Thursday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Live from Washington, D.C., the second inauguration of Donald J. Trump. Here again, David Muir.
Welcome back to ABC News Live coverage on this Inauguration Day. We have watched as the 47th President of the United States has been sworn in, Donald Trump. He's now at the luncheon. They're taking a few moments behind the cameras to have lunch, and then we'll resume with our live coverage of the images coming to us from the Capitol. As you know, on this day in Washington, a much colder day than they were hoping it would be, so they had to move the proceedings indoors. They actually had the inaugural speech inside the Capitol Rotunda, as you saw. This all began, though, today with sort of resuming what we've come to expect on Inauguration Day in this country, the cornerstone of democracy, the peaceful transfer of power, watching an outgoing president actually greet the incoming president. Let's take a look at the images from earlier. The team all back with me here, both here in the studio and across Washington. This was the moment here this morning, Joe Biden and Jill Biden greeting Donald Trump and Melania Trump as they arrived. 8 years ago, we remember Melania Trump sort of following Donald Trump up the stairs to greet the Obamas. This time, Donald Trump waiting for Melania there, walking up to the Bidens together, greeting them. Donald Trump putting his arm there on the First Lady, Jill Biden. Of course, they changed roles now. It's past noon Eastern time, which means Joe Biden is now the former president. Former First Lady Jill Biden and Donald Trump and Melania Trump are the president and First Lady. They've been sworn in. Donald Trump has been, and J.D. Vance has been as well. And in 8 years later, John Carl, Donald Trump is getting right to work here. he actually knows the job. This has been a test of loyalty in choosing members of the cabinet and those who will be closest to him in the West Wing. We've seen a lot of Susie Wiles today. And you heard Governor Chris Christie say earlier on our coverage that he actually thinks, and he watched this very closely, a lot of the advice that was given to Donald Trump 8 years ago from people who had actually been in politics before. Donald Trump liked to play around in political circles, but had never actually run for office. It was his first time, became president in that first run against Hillary Clinton. But this time, he knows the job. And he's actually been a little quieter from Mar-a-Lago until today. We have heard a couple of speeches already from Donald Trump today, but he's actually getting the work done and knows exactly what he wants done to prepare.
Everything is at a faster clip. They're talking about shock and awe for the first days in office. You often hear about a presidential ambition for the first 100 days. Donald Trump is really looking at the ambition for the first days, the first week in office, the first day in office. He is prepared to go with, we're told, up to 200 executive actions. Now, those are not all official executive orders, but executive actions right off the bat. As you heard him allude to in that speech in Emancipation Hall, clearly he is prepared to issue pardons and commendations for virtually everybody involved in the attack on the Capitol. He's also taking actions on all of the cornerstone priorities of his campaign. Energy exploration. He's going to go after so-called DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity and inclusion initiatives, the so-called anti-woke effort. He's going to do inflation's a top priority, obviously the border. I'm looking to see when we're going to see the first efforts at mass deportations, which, of course, were a cornerstone promise of his campaign. So look, Donald Trump's not waiting to get started. I believe if you look back 8 years ago, he signed a total of 1 executive order on day one. He's going to do a lot more than that here on his new day one.
We heard him talk about a national emergency on the southern border. He's going to declare that here on day one. I want to go to Maria Villarreal. She's in Texas. She covers, obviously, the issue of immigration and the southern border for us. And Maria, they were expecting this, authorities in the border states, that Donald Trump would act and act quickly. And they've now heard it in the inaugural address. They now await the signing with the pen a little later this afternoon to put some of these words into action. Exactly what that action looks like remains to be seen. And as John Carl just pointed out, whether or not we'll see any sort of beginning to mass deportations still remains up in the air, though he's given every indication, President Trump, that he intends to act and quickly here.
You know, David, I think Mary Bruce probably put it best a little earlier, right? She said we heard the inaugural address and then we heard a second address. And I think that's when we really got a good sense of what Trump is really focused on, what's important to him, where he feels most comfortable. We've been talking about this all throughout the election, right? For me, though, this gave us a lot more perspective on what we can expect at the border. And I think that's what a lot of people, a lot of contacts and sources down here have been waiting for. There have been a lot of rumblings for weeks about what could potentially happen. I mean, obviously, he talked today about bringing back Remain in Mexico. We've also heard a lot of conversations around Title 42. And when you talk about those two policies coming back, David, I think it's a real concern, not just for the people that are going to have to respond to the issues that are going to happen along the border, but really what is going to be happening in Mexico. There are shelters right now that don't have a lot of migrants, don't have a lot of families, but their bigger concern is, like, if you implement a Remain in Mexico, I mean, basically that in Title 42 allows people to just allows our federal government to push migrants back into Mexico to wait for their asylum cases to be heard. That will instantly create issues in these shelters. And then that's when we will also see the potential for a lot of those camps where, you know, people are waiting along the border in awful conditions to try and get heard. I mean, this caused some major issues and major tension between the U.S. and Mexico when these two policies were both in place during the first Trump administration and then, you know, sweeping into the Biden administration as well.
Any indication from authorities there on the ground as to how far they think the Trump administration will go in these early days? You talk about Title 42, of course, was used during COVID. It was actually used in the early days of the Biden administration until the courts caught up with them. But there's been a lot of talk about whether or not that can be brought back in light of other concerns that are now on the radar.
You know, and I think that is why it's so important for us to pay attention to the verbiage, the wording of how these executive orders will come out. Obviously, this is a very smart Trump administration that has been planning, you know, what they're going to do along the border for not just a few months, but really the last year or so. How can they get around the court systems that have already said remain in Mexico cannot be used any longer by the Biden administration? So in order to bring it back, they've got to write that policy a little bit differently. So we got to pay attention to that. Also, Title 42. You know, the reason why we heard the president come in and say, listen, this is a national emergency along our southern border, is that gives him a lot of freedom to then use things like our military, you know, the Department of Defense, bringing troops down here, not just the National Guard anymore. So I think we're going to see him use those avenues, and then also the help of Title 42. Again, we've heard a lot of rumblings along the border, a lot of sources and contacts saying we do believe Title 42 is going to come back. This is something that local law enforcement, but more specifically Customs and Border Patrol, these agents can use instantly. It is plug and play for them, David, because they've already had Title 42 in place. They had 4 to 5 years of being able to use that particular policy. So for them, they're ready to go. It's just a matter of what comes out in those executive orders as to exactly, you know, what situations will call for those policies.
Have any of the authorities who've witnessed sort of the change in just the last 6 months there, given the very late stage action taken by outgoing President Joe Biden, and has anyone asked the question down there, why not simply have acted much sooner for the Democrats, obviously given the swift reduction in just the issue at the border in the last 6 months?
You know, we're actually standing in El Paso, right? This is a very blue area in a very red state. We've talked a lot to local community leaders here who have asked that exact question. You know, their hope was that during this last administration, the Biden administration, they would see, you know, more of a concerted effort to tackle the immigration issue as a whole and to get everybody on board, right? That we would see this kind of bipartisan coming, you know, to the middle of the aisle and really trying to figure out not just what the root causes were, but really, what are the policies that we can put into place that will long-term fix this particular issue? Unfortunately, we saw that, you know, border security bill that would have tried to fix some of the issues. You know, obviously, that was that didn't go through last December, and so then President Biden had to step in and issue